Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Hank Strange. We're actually at the 2022 Overland Expo West, which is in Flagstaff, Arizona, and we're in the ZenVanz booth. And we have Brian here who's going to walk us through ZenVanz. These are some very cool vans, as you can see. Some beautiful bamboo work going on in here. Brian's going to give us the whole rundown right now. Let's do this. Guys, I want to remind you that we have these Vanasaur t-shirts and a new one is out. This is Campfire by Moonlight. New Vanasaur t-shirt, that's how you pronounce that. If you're a fan of Class B camper vans, whether it's Sprinter, ProMaster, or the Transit, you can get these t-shirts, show your love for that, and support StrangerPalooza. And we don't have any like logos or anything like that on it. Plus you can get StrangerPalooza t-shirts. If you look down here in YouTube, there's a store down there. You could check out the store, get this and other designs. And from Lola and myself, who did all the work designing this, thanks very much. See you on the next one. You know, there's something called editing. And in the editing process, I can make you look like, well, for some people, you can't do anything.
I guarantee you cannot fix the problems that are going on here.
Yeah. All right, so we're at ZenVanz, I think is the name of the company here, right? It's on the t-shirts. And these are really cool looking vans inside. So hopefully we'll get one of these guys, if not both of them, to give us a tour of these beautiful vans and tell us all about the company, how it started, how you guys can get in touch with them, buy one of these vans if you want to. So are you Brian?
I am Brian.
Here's Brian, and then you are?
Brent.
Brent. Brian and Brent.
We don't like to make it real confusing.
Yeah.
So we try to have as many letters in the name
right.
the same as
Are you guys co-owners of this company?
We are.
There you go. Boom. There you go. So, how does this start? Do I bring my van to you, or do you guys build vans from scratch? How does this work?
All of the answers are yes.
All of the above.
Okay.
So we started as a DIY company. My wife Jen and I lived in vans full time for 8 years.
Okay.
It at some point just seemed like a waste that we finally figured it out. And that was going to be the last one. And so we came to an event like this. In fact, we came to Expo just as featured travelers. They asked us to come and talk about our trips down to Panama and back. And in the process, we opened the door, so then everybody kept asking us to help them.
Right.
And so eventually we said yes, and we started helping them.
Yeah.
And so we started building cabinets based on how we did it. A few things you'll notice about our things that are different is, you know, we use bamboo for everything. It's the only part of our van that looked as good at the end of our 8 years as it did in the beginning.
Right.
So we started using
And they look beautiful.
we also use a lot of curved edges because I have a lot of scars to prove why you should use curved edges. And so that kind of was the basis for what we did. But I also am a designer, so I kept changing our system again and again.
Okay.
And so I would keep pulling everything out, starting over. And so we were basically turning our van into Swiss cheese with all those self-tapping screws. So now what we did is we reverse engineered everything to use factory holes. So whether it's a Sprinter or Transit, whatever you have, we're going to use those factory holes. And we're going to give you everything with the holes already in our stuff to line up. So you can bolt everything into those holes, take it out, put it back in as many times as you need to.
Oh, okay.
So if you're a DIY client, a lot of our clients will have us install for them. They'll camp on the way home, and then they'll slowly build it out over the next year while they're still using the van.
Oh, okay.
Because it's kind of reverse engineering that process as well, right? As opposed to I have to solve everything up front, do everything first, and then put the walls up. We actually work almost backwards.
Sometimes what you want to do with it changes, right? The whole thing's, you're constantly evolving.
I think it's crazy that most of us, when we try to build a van, we think we're only going to do it once. But we renovate our houses a dozen times while we live, you know? And so, I mean, at least for us, as the brain that can't stop working, we had to solve that problem. And so we just bolt into those factory holes to make it easy. Okay. Eventually, we had clients come to us that said, that's great, but we don't want to do the electrical and the plumbing and the inside. Cutting a hole in an expensive van's really scary. Can you guys do that? Yeah. And so we eventually said yes to that as well.
So you guys are certified with Mercedes and Ford, etc., to do this, or?
We're not at this point. We're actually in the process with Mercedes. They've been asking us for a while. There are also a lot of restrictions that come with that. Right. So we're trying to learn about it. You know, we wouldn't be allowed to install seats anymore. You can't drill holes in a van anymore.
Oh.
So there's a lot of very interesting
Okay, so there's
caveats
pluses and
that we're
minuses
learning.
to that. Yeah.
We just don't know enough yet to know if it's a good fit.
Right.
So that's kind of the stage that we're at.
Okay, cool.
You'll find that, we're from Portland. There's actually not a certified builder in the state of Oregon, and most van builders are in the state of Oregon. And so certification's a kind of an odd
It's a weird thing, yeah.
that we're still learning about.
Yeah. Sometimes once you go down that rabbit hole, you never come out.
Who knows?
Yes. Yeah. All right, cool. So let's start looking at something here. Do you guys? Let's check this one out.
Well,
so we're looking at this is a Sprinter.
So what are there several different models?
There aren't. So
we're a custom builder.
A lot of builders that have popped up over the last couple of years due to demand. I mean, COVID started this van life craze almost. So almost all builders have now said that we have 2 models or 3 models, you choose. The designer in me hates that idea, and so we do full custom work. So every van we build is different.
Okay.
And so we have, this is a client van, this is a client van. This is actually a van we built for events like this, and then for our team to take out camping, because a lot of our team don't own their own van. So that way they can go out and live the lifestyle and come back and feed back changes and ideas, which works great for us.
So pricing wise, I'm sure a lot of folks looking at this want to know about prices, and I know stuff changes. Generally, how do you guys deal with that? You try to find out what budget they have? What do you do?
It can work both ways. We tried to build our base. It changes a lot frequently because so much is changing the market. We have what we kind of put together as our base build based on my wife and I's family. So after all those years, we said this is what is kind of the base level of what we think a good build is. And so that's where we start. We're also, because of that craze, now booked out about a year. And so that's a nice starting point for us with a client. And then we adjust up or down based upon what their actual needs are. So we have some clients that say, hey, I don't need all those exterior components. Let's take those off to save money. We have others that literally upgrade everything else in the van. And so it is a full gamut.
Very
just like we also have clients that say, look, I still want the DIY because I want to save money on sweat equity.
Absolutely.
And so for us, part of the fun is that we do the same custom work, custom layouts, beautiful components that are built to last forever. And it doesn't matter how much, what the budget is. You want to do it yourself and save all the money you can. You want to drop off the van or have us source the van and go through the process. We can do both.
Awesome.
So yeah, we love it.
Let's take a look. So I'll let you and Lola go in here. I'll be right behind you.
Should we move this cabinet?
We will, or we could put it back up and show them how
Yeah, I apologize. You guys walked up as we were doing a DIY demo. So we literally just dropped this off in our demo.
Okay.
But this is a good example of what we just talked about, that the cabinets come with pre-drilled holes, and then our system basically allows you to bolt panels into pre-drilled holes. And so for us to put this cabinet back up, we literally just kind of hinge it on the L-track, pop in 3 bolts, and it's done.
Okay.
And so that's actually a pretty good example of what we're talking about.
Can we see how that's done?
Yeah.
You want to do it?
Yeah, maybe grab Jen.
Yeah.
We weren't ready for that, but we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's something folks don't see that often. So yeah, I do like the track system, but you're saying the cabinet's going right here, or is it going here?
It'll actually rest on this.
Oh, it's going to rest on this lip.
The system we put in the ceiling.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
And then you can still put whatever you need. I mean, I love these track
Like
systems.
So the track's still going to be accessible if you need to strap anything down.
Right.
All the track really does for us, other than these fancy mounting points, is it just gives us the ability to take the weight off. So if you happen to be working alone, you can actually still install upper cabinets. It's a lot easier with a friend.
Leverage it in there,
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you for
I'll get my helper in here and we'll put this
let's
up.
take a pause.
I'm going to make her do all the work.
Uh-oh.
It's a good example, right, of an upper. So in this case, we or our client would have already come in, pre-drilled those holes and put in the threaded inserts so we can bring it in and out as many times as possible.
Okay.
Jen and I just dropped this to show everybody, but if we want to install it, we're just going to take it. We're going to allow the L-track to do most of the work. So we're just going to kind of feed it in there. Now it'll hold it up for us, and we're going to have to kind of find the holes.
My way and a half inch. Do that one more time. That's pretty good. Let's shoot there.
I'm going to go a little further.
Okay.
Are you in the L-track?
I am in the L-track.
Are you still on?
I can't see my hole. Oh yeah,
Okay.
my way like 1/8 of an inch. That'll work.
Okay. And so we're just going to hand tighten a bolt because we've already got that threaded insert up there.
All right, I'm in.
And we're in.
And then And can you
And so
hold it?
you can see the cabinet's basically there.
Yeah.
Jen will come back with a screwdriver and tighten everything, but it's basically doing the work for us, right?
Definitely. Yeah, that L track is way helpful.
Yeah, so you can add and subtract these cabinets, or take the cabinets down if you want to put something else here, right?
Correct. So as I mentioned, a lot of our DIYers will have us install. They may live on the East Coast, so they'll come to us in Portland. We'll install everything for them for a couple of days while they're there, and then they can drive home in this van, camp all the way home, and then they won't have systems yet. They won't have the lighting and the water system. Thank you, Jen.
Of course.
But then they can get home, park it in the garage,
Thanks, Jen.
and then as time allows or as money allows, they'll wait till they have a weekend free, have the materials ready, drop a cabinet, drop a wall panel, stuff some insulation in, run some wires, put it right back up and go camping again.
Okay.
And so it kind of just flips that process a little bit.
So I have a couple of questions about builds. So in this system, basically you're getting like your system here, right? When you're doing this. So in your system, go ahead.
Our components are basically the same, whether it's DIY or whether it's us doing it, because we just believe in that's the best way to build.
Right.
So we're using the same reverse engineering, the same system, and the same planning, regardless of whether we're doing it or you're doing it.
Oh, okay. So there's already, you have a system kind of for wiring, I guess where I was going here, right? To make it easy for wiring. Or let's say if I put up these cabinets and then I decide I want to wire things differently, do I then have to make room in here for the wires to go? How does that work?
Yeah, so the beauty of the way most vans are built is that you've got all these cavities kind of behind the structure, right? And so the same bolts that we just looked at, you kind of know where the structure of the van is based upon those bolts. And everything behind it's a cavity.
Right.
And so that cavity is where most people would run the insulation, the wiring, the plumbing, things like that.
Yeah.
To be clear about the work that we do, we kind of have two separate arms of the system, right? So we can do a DIY.
Okay.
And in that case, most of our clients are looking to save money through sweat equity, right?
Right.
And so we're probably going to do as little as possible. And so our base kit is just cabinets, right? So we'll just build the cabinets and hand those off. And some people actually do their own ceiling and their own wall panels.
Okay.
I'd say 80-90% of those clients want us to complete the look, right? So we'll do the ceiling and the walls. But that's where we're going to end what we do.
Oh,
right?
I
we can
see.
plug it into the van for them for that drive home.
Yeah.
But that's where our DIY work ends. We certainly do some coaching and counseling as best we can.
Yeah.
There's also some liability issues that come in if we try to tell you how to wire, but we're not doing it.
Right.
So our legal team has asked us to not do that.
Yes, I get it.
The other arm of the business is where we either source a van for them, or they drop off a van, and we do everything. So we're literally taking that from beginning to end, all systems, and then handing them the keys and giving them a tour and a how-to once they pick up the van.
And it really comes down to your skill level. And I think for someone who has the skill level to wire their van, like you said, because you're using the standard stuff with that the vans come with, I don't know if you said it or not here on camera, but I know you were telling me this when we were talking before, that you build basically on the system that the van already has. You're not punching a whole bunch of holes or anything like that. So it's easy enough to figure out, okay, you need to fish these lines through here, bring it,
Correct. Yeah, I mean, we're basically trying to use the existing hole system in whatever the van is. And we're reverse engineering our stuff around it.
Yeah.
So that we're not drilling more holes, getting more rust points, and basically turning that van into Swiss cheese.
Yes.
So that's same either way. And a lot of our clients, like I said, they'll do the cabinetry first, they'll figure out the rest later. We obviously have our systems dialed, so we know what to run and where to run it, right? And we can send photos and things like that.
Yeah.
But for most people, even if they're building it DIY, we'll have them go through and do that system of threaded inserts into factory holes first. Because then they know that's done. It's out of the way. There's no more drill bits involved. There's no more wire shards involved. There's no more metal shards involved.
Right.
And so they can basically already, even if the kit's not delivered to them yet, because they're going to plug it in, they can start with the insulation, the wiring, and then it's more of what you might think of as a typical build where you finish all that and then you put up the panels and the cabinets. It's process, right?
Yeah.
It's a matter of timing in terms of how much time they have and what makes the most sense for them. And how much they want to do on their own, quite frankly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we love both. I mean, our background's DIY just because that's how my wife and I worked, and so I still have a passion for it. And frankly, it's a different type of person, so it's fun to work with both.
Yeah.
We also learn just as much from either, right? So our, if you look at Timothea's van next door, we might already be doing that. She's got 2 benches in the back of her van and a HappiJac system to raise and lower the bed.
Okay.
That's the first time we did that. But we actually did benches for the first time in a DIY kit. Once people saw photos of that, we suddenly had 4 or 5 full build clients. That
Yeah.
And it's funny how people don't know what they want until they see
Until you see it, it's true.
And so for us, the DIY, even if it's fully custom, not off the shelf, versus a full build that's fully custom, both help people kind of understand more about what they want and what's a good fit.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's I don't know, we love doing both. Right?
Yeah, no one could build a perfect van. I think ultimately, like, you know what you want to make that van perfect for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
many of our clients have owned 3 or 4 vans before.
Yeah.
Right? And they're coming to us because they've owned other vans. Those vans have fallen apart, so they bought a new one. They may have only owned it for 3 or 4 years, but the corners are starting to separate. But they still have a 25-year mortgage on it, or whatever you call it, a van loan, right? And so they're coming to us for their forever van. And so if we had to try and tell them to pick A or B, it just doesn't seem right?
Yeah.
And so our job is to translate their vision and their needs into something that's going to work, right?
Yeah.
So our job, I think, is kind of equal parts designer and coach of taking the things that we did wrong, so they don't stumble upon those same things.
Right.
Taking the things they know they want and kind of merging that into one, hopefully perfect van, right? Perfect for them, I should say.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the cabinets down here. I know there's a couple of things. One, you were telling us, I think that you don't have any like sharp edges. Everything's rounded, so you want to kind of walk us through the philosophy, actually looking at what, at a finished product.
Yeah, sorry, I already forget what I told you, but our first van, we drove down to Panama on that, and we did a lot of things wrong with that van, but the one thing that looked just as good the day we got back as the day we left was the bamboo. And so we decided straight away that was our material. It not only holds up well to the abuse inside of a van, but it's eco-friendly, totally sustainable, holds up to mold and mildew really well. So that was a given for us. The next change for us was trying to figure out how to build with curves instead of square corners, and that's mostly just from me banging my head often enough, right? And so what we kind of fell into once we got to the curve is that we needed a rigid structure. And so we went with aluminum again because there's no water issues, no rust issues. But what we ended up with was this amazingly lightweight frame that is absolutely rugged, right?
Yeah.
We always think about life inside of a camper van as basically being in a permanent earthquake for a year, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a van for a year.
Yeah.
And
you're
so
driving all over the place, and vibrations are ridiculous.
And then when you live inside of a van, you're a couple of humans, or for us, a couple of humans and a dog.
Right.
We're bringing the moisture with us, and so we're creating the worst scenario. And then you add the temperature fluctuations that happen inside of a vehicle.
Yeah.
Like we are literally trying to take the worst scenario to live in and turn it into something beautiful and make it last.
Yeah.
It's just it's an unenviable.
It's a weird thing to combine your home, and a vehicle.
It is.
But
we also love it. I mean, that's what for us at least. That was freedom, right? For us to be able to live and change. We've now been living nomadically full time for 10 years, and we are living our perfect life.
Okay.
And it might seem strange to several people that happens inside of a van, or now we spend some time in boats as well. Man, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I'm never going back. Options that we have here, do people have options, or we're looking at the set cabinetry?
In hindsight, we should have started in the other van. It's probably more standard. So this has some customizations that might not be.
Right.
Typically, we would have a drawer fridge in the middle of this galley.
Okay, we'll take a look at all of the vans.
But in this case, this was built for a chef, right? And so this chef really wanted a top-load fridge freezer.
Very nice. Yeah.
So we built our cabinet for that to work for him. He also wanted a lot more in terms of storage. And so a lot of our adventure clients want to be able to access gear underneath the bed, as where he wanted a lot of storage in terms of drawers. And so for him, this was a fully custom component.
Okay.
Passenger side galley is not necessarily a standard component for us, but it's a very popular one.
Okay.
And so often, especially with a sideways setup where they add flares, or we add flares and they're sleeping sideways, often that gains the space for something like this, where we can have a passenger side galley. And the beauty of that is not only additional storage, but it really allows you to then have, one cooking or sink component here and the other over here. So you just get a much I don't know, a more comfortable cooking space inside. And so this is pretty common in many of our van builds. We'll take up some of the door space, but it still feels very open and roomy, right? Even though it's a 144 base fan or a short wheelbase fan.
And then I noticed, so this just has a fan inside of it. I think that's probably comes down to what that client wanted, right? Because you could do an AC, a fan, 2 fans, whatever you want.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In our personal experience, a lot of our friends have tried to do 2 vents inside of a van.
Yeah.
We find a level of diminishing returns.
Okay.
At some point, what you're doing is you're pulling in hot air to push out hot air. And so
what are you doing?
We just have never, in our personal experience, gotten on it. We've done it for clients that feel strongly about it.
Okay.
In most cases, we would try to add a lot of ventilation everywhere else and a single vent wherever it works best for the other needs of that client.
Yeah.
But in Timothea's van, we'll see an air conditioner as well.
Okay.
I mean, there's really nothing we can't do to a van.
Right.
It's just a matter of what the trickle-down effects are of that move, right? So when you add an air conditioner, for example, other components you're probably going to want to change as well. You're going to want to increase the battery size. You might want to add an alternator to the van, things like that. But yeah, almost everything's possible as long as the inches allow it to be possible.
Absolutely. Let's go look at some other ones here. I like this element here too. You know, I'm just going to move this for a second. I like this whole, you know, you see a lot of stuff going on like this in other vans, but not, you know, not the way this is like fitting flush here. You know, you can actually open this. This hinge is going in. That's beautiful.
Outlet too.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice.
Thanks. No, we
I mean, it seems like a simple thing, but it's really cool. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a lot of the difference.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of builders that I think got into the business because they saw money and an opportunity, right? I mean, we didn't intend to have a business. We just lived in vans for 8 years and realized what worked and didn't. And so for us, it's just fun to help other people get the kind of freedom that we got.
Yeah. There's other bigger builders that they probably need to live in their vans.
It would help. I think it would help. Basically, you'll see in another van, typically our garage, our gear garage, is even deeper. But in this case, he gave up some storage for those drawers, right? So when we look at that other van, you'll see it actually goes much deeper.
So now this one is even more upgraded, right?
I love the blackout curtains here that are going between, you know, between the front driving space and the living space back here.
Well, it's a pity Timothy is not here to show it off herself. She's off wandering.
Okay.
But this is a very custom van, right?
Yeah.
She did a lot of things that we hadn't even done before. Some of them I tried to talk her out of, right? Because we hadn't done them before, but they all turned out great. And so I'm sure they'll make their way into other builds as well. But she lives in the van full time when she's traveling. So she does stealth camp a lot, which is why you have the blackout divider. And then everything is really just custom to her needs, right? So the first thing that was the most important to her was to have this kind of entertaining space, right? Where she could have this, sit down with friends. So we kind of built everything around this dinette space. But she also didn't want to have to convert into a bed each and every day, which was something else that my wife and I found in our town. We hated having to make a bed every day.
Yeah, I just go with a bed and leave.
So for her, we actually built in this HappiJac system so that she still had this space, but then when she wanted to convert it into a bed, I don't know if I'm out of your way or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Then she can just lower this bed down and have everything ready to go to sleep, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for her, that was kind of the basis of the build.
Yeah.
Everything else, we just had to build around that with what was left. One of the things that you'll see in here that's a little different, again, we have kind of that common passenger side galley like we talked about before. All of her storage is different than in the other one because she had a different set of needs.
Right.
So when this bed comes down, for instance, she basically has a step to get in and out of the bed, right?
Oh, I see.
And so there's just these custom components that kind of come with each van.
Yeah, so it's a step
as we
storage.
get into the design.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of the top load fridge we saw in the other one,
Pull out.
this actually has 2 drawers, fridge, freezer.
Very nice.
Right? And this is one of the things we found in our marine life, right? This
Yeah.
is a fridge that gets great reviews in sailboats. We just kind of brought it over like we do most marine things in the van world.
Yes.
And then the other very custom thing, I mean, you'll notice details like divider screens that allow her to make personal touches.
Yeah.
Obviously, this van is very lived in, right?
Yeah.
With all the plants and everything else. She also wanted the privacy of having
there you go.
a bathroom that she could open up. Timothea tried to design this as best she could for herself, because she typically travels alone. But then if and when her husband wants to join her, there's kind of a different set of needs. And so that's kind of where this comes from. In most cases on her own, she may not need that at all. But if a family member wants to come with, son, father, you
want that separation,
that type of change,
trust
right?
me,
And so for us, that's part of the fun, right? I mean, it's every client has a different life story and a different set of needs. And so at least the designer in me, it's just part of the fun. It's like trying to figure out how to orchestrate all those needs in a very small space of a van, right?
I also noticed she has a very particular eye. So aesthetically, I see that all the metalwork is black.
Correct.
Is that, did you guys have to just paint some things, or how did you get that?
Powder coating and anodizing.
Okay.
So again, we're sticking with the materials that we've tested, trusted, and feel really good about. Right? We know that this is still going to outlast the van, but that doesn't mean we can't stain the bamboo different colors. We've had clients want to stain it darker or lighter. We've had clients that want to powder coat the aluminum any number of colors.
Right. I see.
And I think what we're learning over time is the van we looked at last with the natural bamboo and the natural aluminum, that's just what Jen and I did. And so that's what we had a lot of photos of. And so that's what all of our clients wanted.
And it looks
as
good.
Soon as somebody does something different, everybody wants it. Everybody wants something different. And so I think it's just hard for people to visualize a lot of things. But as soon as she did this, which actually worked great for us to be able to kind of integrate a HappiJac system into ours seamlessly. And so you can't even really tell where one starts and the other stops. So the powder coating here did some work for us there as well. Their system comes black. So if we had left the aluminum natural, there would have been this kind of harsh contrast. And we wanted everything to look the same, which when we go to the back and look in, you'll kind of get a feel for that. But now that this is here, we get so many calls. Oh, I want that black. That looks so good. Oh, I want that HappiJac. Oh, I want the benches in the back. And, you know, she was just asking yesterday how many people have now started asking for this blue in their cushions. And it's funny how that kind of happens, right? You think that it's something that's very specific to one person, but once it's out there, I mean, you guys, you're doing this on YouTube, you get it. Once somebody sees something, like we live in a visual world, right? So we're just trying to keep up with what people want, right?
Absolutely. Let's go take a look at the back of this.
I think I mentioned inside, but part of what the powder coating did for us here, this is actually the HappiJac system that comes off the shelf black. Our aluminum obviously is often natural, but powder coating them together really allowed this to come together in a way that it looks as though we built everything, right? And as you can see, like from the front, it looks and feels like you got a lot of seating space. But the other thing that happens here is it just feels like a huge van. So for her privacy here at the show, we've dropped down that blackout curtain, so we're actually not seeing almost a third of this van, and it still feels huge. Right?
Yeah, it does.
So it's amazing how these little tweaks really help a small space live and feel a lot bigger than it is.
I like this though as well. Like, you know, you've got this built-in cover here for the space that's happening between the door and tables and stuff like that.
Well, and again, this comes back to that same system, right? So if I was to take this down for you, this is how the Sprinter in this case comes, right? There's holes in all these locations. All we're doing is either removing the panel that they put up with, you know, cheap plastic clips that break as soon as you pull them off, or it comes with nothing. So we're just using that same system to put up things that are, you know, more beautiful and going to last a lot longer. This van's actually really similar to what Jen and I ended our travels with. And so that's actually why we start our base full build at this. And our base DIY kit is pretty similar to this as well, though there are a couple small additions in terms of the cabinetry. And then this particular van, because we use this for two main purposes. One is to go to events like this for marketing. The other is that we really wanted a van that our entire team could take out and experience the lifestyle, right? Get on the road, test the things that they've been building in the shop to see what works and what doesn't. And so it's a really common event for us to have somebody take it out, come back, and then present to the team on all the things they wish we had improved, they wish they had, how we can get better. And for our internal learning, I mean, it has changed things night and day for people to understand why they're building things rather than just building things. Right.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you know, we lived in a van forever. They're vacationing in a van on weekends and for weeks, but we're getting there, right? And it's funny how that has really changed the trajectory for our whole team. But this is where we ended up, and so after 8 years of living in a van full time, and so this setup is exactly what we had. With I think one exception of an upper cabinet that we removed. Side rails, pretty much the suspension. This awning is one of the things.
This is great. This is the beefiest awning I've ever seen in my life.
This is called a SureShade. We were actually in Baja and watched a large gust come up on an RV and rip a Fiam awning straight off
Right off,
and leave holes in the side of it. And so I just said I would never do it. So I started researching awnings, trying to invent my own, and I stumbled upon this. Was built in the marine world to be on a boat while underway. And so this thing is literally good to 50-mile-an-hour winds. And so as you walk around, even here, it's so gusty that nobody has shades out. And this thing's been out for 2 days. We never take it in. It's not cheap, but it is burly, and it works really well all the time.
And what is it called?
It's called SureShade.
SureShade.
SureShade. So we actually worked with them to re-engineer their boat awning to bring it into this kind of van RV world.
Oh, okay.
That took 2 or 3 years.
Auto close and open?
It is. Yeah, the whole thing just rolls up onto a spindle. I don't know what they would call it. But you'll see it actually has the camper to help rain get off the top. It basically extends in 3 stages of an actuator. So we just press a button and roll it in.
Roll it.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, I mean, we have to admit when there are things we can't do better than somebody else. And I think this shade is simply one of those things.
Yeah. Oh, now we're getting bred to do work.
Not an easy feat, I assure you.
Better do this right, man. Everyone's looking at you.
Soft room.
Yeah. It's going to be absolute judgment. Look at that.
I'm working, guys.
Perfect. So one of the things that, I just mentioned, there are some things that we just can't improve. The go-to table in most vans is called a lagoon. You've probably seen it in a lot of your videos.
I've got one
The lagoon
myself.
table works, what we found, lagoon table works on something that's bench height because it's got that gooseneck, right? But if you try to attach it to the front of something that's counter height, it's going to get railroaded by that countertop, so it can't go as low as you want it to. And so we found that in our vans, when you're sitting in the front seats, whether you're working or playing cards or eating, your table was up here.
Yeah.
And so we basically just re-engineered a table arm that we find works better in counter height surfaces. Lagoon's still great in benches, so you just saw it in Timothea's. It does not work great in counter height. So that's why you'll see a couple different things depending on, again, the use case. The counter height is going to change the hardware.
So this is your own device?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Can people who don't have these vans get one, or you have to have like your van to buy these?
We sell them with DIY kits.
Okay.
We're a small organization, man. I mean, we're fully custom. We're small. As much as I would love to say we saw COVID coming and we just had a bunch of things sitting on the shelf to offer just off a website, we didn't. We did not. Our crystal ball was broken, I guess, last year.
Right.
2 years ago. And so we aren't to the point where we just sell on a website off-the-shelf stuff. Frankly, for most of our DIYers, I've got a really deep Amazon cart. I'll just send them links where they can buy most things.
Okay.
Eventually, we want to get there where we have a store on our website just so it's easier and handier. We just aren't there yet. We're trying to do what we know, and then eventually we'll keep growing into those things.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, we can certainly offer it with a DIY kit if we're making the cabinets for you, or in this case, if it's a full build. It's just something where we would typically coach them through where we recommend the lagoon versus where we recommend, the ZenVanz arm.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So I don't know if we want to take a look inside. I noticed you guys have really big windows. So you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
These are kind of the normal, I don't know if we call them normal, but these are the C.R. Lawrence vented windows.
Okay.
These are the windows that basically just replace the factory window.
Oh, okay.
So if someone was to walk into a Mercedes dealer, ask for, windows in a crew van, for example, when you normally have seats from the dealer, they're going to put a fixed window in here. This one mimics that. It just happens to give you the ability to add venting as well.
Okay.
And so for us, it's all about air circulation inside the van. This is our go-to unless a client decides they want something else. And then, of course, we'll switch gears and do that.
Okay.
In our standard rig, again, this was based on Jen and I's travels. We tend to start with an isotherm drawer fridge, which is great for storage, but also still provides enough room for some cutlery up top. It's just a nice balance, right? It's not a massive fridge like what we looked at over there with 2 drawers, but it is a lot of storage. And then it allows us to have room at the front
so is that
for a nice pantry.
Nice. Okay.
Right? And so again, this is our stock driver's side kitchen galley. Our, it's not usually this dusty, but in this case, the features all work the same. And then we've still got room over here for a pantry as well. So before you guys walked up, I was giving a little demo on, how to DIY. I also mentioned that a lot of our clients will camp on the way home and then slowly add systems.
Right.
So for a lot of our clients that aren't yet ready to do a full water system, they may come in here use this cabinet. We've also sized it in a way there's just enough room for 2 5-gallon jerry cans. So they can effectively come in, put a pump on the wall, run a very simple system. We did this in our first van with plumbing, because we went 7 years with no plumbing whatsoever. And we installed the first one in a Home Depot parking lot in an hour and a half. And so we can easily tell our clients how to get water inside their van without going all the way.
So before we come out of here, Lola, do you want to come over here and get some?
That table really works.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's beautiful.
Really
So the pizza oven here, what do you have going on up here? In this, I call it a pizza oven.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just an over-seat storage is what we call it. It's just highly functional space that's kind of wasted in a Sprinter or in most of these vans. And so we just put the shelf in. You've got some L-track to attach things to if you need them. And then mostly it's good for blackout shades. We find that as we're living in the van, it's just a great place to throw the hat, the jacket.
Yeah.
It's just quick storage for things that are up and out of the way.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
Obviously, we do start to make some custom items as we have time. As one of our team has the ability to finally put a cool object into, we do a lot of napkin sketches and things as we have fun time. We don't always have time to build them. And so when we have a chance to actually start taking advantage of space in fun little ways, it's great. If you're going to be off-roading hard enough, obviously you'd pop that off the L-track and stash it away.
Right.
We try to think about that much like you would in a sailboat. If you're about to make a crossing in big waves, you're going to put some things away. So this is about the same.
What do we have going on right here?
This is very common, again, both in our DIYs as well as a full build. Obviously, we're moving into the slider door, so we're extending the floor a little bit to get here. And then this just does double duty as kind of a box for the toilet as well as a step up into the bed. This one's actually set up for a Laveo dry flush. A lot of our clients will simply do that with a Thetford cassette toilet as well. Composting toilet, it's up to the client on what best fits. But again, it does double duty, right? So it works for the toilet as well as a step up in and out. But it's not quite as intricate as what you saw in the other van where we have kind of a pull-out drawer that can also house the toilet within it, which is very common when we move to that passenger side galley. You've no longer got this kind of bench height box. So that's where you'll see we use that toilet as a step to get in and out of the bed.
Okay, cool.
And then this goes
pass-through?
Yeah, this goes back to, again, most of our more adventure-focused clients and what we used to do. In this case, we have a lot of supplies for the show, but it really allows you to access the gear from the front as well, right?
Okay.
In Jen and I's original vans, we didn't have a separator here at all, right? So you could just grab all the gear, and our dog actually lived right underneath the bed. But this does tidy things up a little more, so you're not staring at the gear. You don't have to clean everything up as you go.
Okay, what's up with these? Are these vents right here?
These are actually vents, yep. So when you turn on the heat, you can set the thermostat so it'll keep running or kick on and off, and then effectively the heat will just vent through here.
Oh, nice.
This van actually was built with the forced air heat as well as a hydronic system. So we do have hot water both in the sink as well as the shower. A lot of our vans now actually have a radiant heat flooring system as well as a coil that runs up to the engine. So the last few miles before you get to camp, you can turn that on. The heat of the engine will actually heat the entire system. So when you get to camp, you don't have to waste more power to heat things.
Right.
So just a matter of how far people want to take it, right?
Yeah, true.
But yeah, for this, this was the setup we always used. Again, we used to stealth camp a lot. And so we didn't really want flares on our van for the sideways sleeping.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you go sideways, you do gain about 14 inches. So you can imagine it's a decent amount of storage. You are losing the underbed storage, so it's harder for things like full mountain bikes, unless it's a folding bike. What you gain in the lengthwise bed, we have clients that want either a full queen, almost a king, that you can do that. We always loved it because you actually just get this huge storage that can come in beside the bed. So you've got places to stuff comforters,
that's cool.
pillows, a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a matter of storage.
Yeah, and it just makes for less clutter, because you can tuck those things away. Yeah, that's cool.
Although you're filming the inside, which is pretty cluttered. So
but you could always put those down, and then you got nothing. You can clutter up on top of it too.
Yeah. The only negative that we've come up with for the sideways sleeping is the flares if you're trying to stealth camp. But again, now that there's so many vans on the road, that is no longer much of an issue. The biggest concern we hear with the sideways sleeping is simply having to climb over the other person. So one person always has to climb over the other. As where with lengthwise sleeping, you can just hop
just
right
get
off.
out. Yeah, you can just shimmy out.
I think that's kind of the crux of how people decide which way to go on that.
Yeah, let's go to the back.
Yeah, so this van actually has what we would typically call kind of an owl van back end. Owl van makes great gear, mostly just to strap onto the back doors. In this case, we've got a ladder to get up and down, a tire carrier so that you're not dropping the spare underneath and having to roll around to get it when you don't want to. And then on the opposite door, we've got what they call a Sherpa rack, which allows us to have some recovery gear. You can really mount whatever you want onto this, so this rack is great. Other clients will decide to have a box here that might be, I forget the exact depth, but it allows you to actually lock stuff away.
Right, jerry cans.
Yeah, whatever you might decide you need. Again, up to each person and how they're going to travel.
I like the tray, the slide-out tray here.
Thanks. Yeah, and then what we do is we basically put everything onto a massive tray so that it'll pull out. This happens to have a mountain bike on it. For a lot of clients, we'll have to adjust the bed. Super tall clients have super tall bikes. So we might have to adjust the bed height to allow for all those things to happen. But you get this drawer in here, and then even some of that reachable space that we saw from the front end. So you really, on the link-by sleeping, end up with a massive gear area.
Yeah, that's always cool.
And then on the back, we've basically just got a bunch of our electrical controls.
Right.
We've got the ability to plug into shore power down below, as well as an air compressor to re-pump up the tires after you've gone off-roading.
Yeah.
And then we've also got our water fill and the hot water shower that we talked about.
Yeah, so that's that chrome stuff.
Yeah, so basically, we just turn that on, pull it out. Usually we'll drape a shower curtain across the back, and then pull out a bamboo gear tray to make sure you're not going to get muddy from the bottom as you're showering.
So, obviously you guys have done this for a long time. You guys have actually lived with them and everything. What do you think about switches versus like the control pads? Are you a switches guy? I would assume
we're still
so.
testing.
Yeah.
I mean, the easy answer is we're still testing. So we just changed we weren't in love with the switch panels, most of them, or the control panels. But Garmin just came out with what they call an overlander, Switch Pro, I think is what they call it. And so far in the testing, we're loving it.
Okay.
And so we're building another van, kind of a marketing company use van for ourselves right now. The beauty is we get to do a lot of testing in those vans without messing up a client van or telling them that we're testing on their van.
Right.
So we wait until we kind of save notes all year, right?
Yeah.
And then when we make our next van, is where we really get a chance to test and try all those things. And so we're putting the Garmin Overlander in that new van.
Okay.
If it keeps working as well as we expect so far, we will actually replace our other switch systems with that Overlander.
Okay.
Because it just is testing great right now.
Okay, cool.
And that's pretty common for us. I mean, we just keep learning and growing as we go. This lifestyle's changing so fast. And the products are changing so fast that, testing and trying to keep up with the best of is always changing. Which is, again, it's part of why we don't want to build more and more and more vans every month. We just want to make sure that we are still friends with every client at the end, so that they're writing us every trip, sending photos, telling us what's good and bad. And so we're kind of just a learning organization, right? I mean, we're learning both from our mistakes as well as, everything our clients tell us works and is great, and new things they stumble upon, something they saw in somebody else's van. It doesn't matter where good ideas come from, right?
Yeah. No.
Shows like this are great. I mean, we get to walk around and see what's going on, find new products that we didn't hear about. But in most cases, our client network is both the best way for us to learn good and bad, as well as how we meet all of our new clients. We come here once a year, but we've never marketed, we've never paid for marketing. We rely on word of mouth, right? So it's hugely important to us that that relationship with each client is, we're friends at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. All right, Brian, thanks so much, man.
Of course.
I really appreciate that. Lots of good info in there for the folks who are interested in this. I think especially people who are doing this for the first time and trying to build something, or, they just trying to get all those options through their brain. I know I was thinking about options even as a guy I've owned mine for about 15 months.
Right.
So I think you have a way more experience, and it's cool to just pick your brain
Part of what we love.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing it. What if people out there want to talk to you guys or find out more info? Where can they go?
You can go to the website, www.zenvanz.com, and that's with a Z or a Z on the front and the back end. You can obviously find us on Instagram and Facebook, or just give us a call. All of those methods basically come straight to me and or to the other owner, Brent.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. So you guys didn't even want to do this.
Hey, I'm glad I could help out so much on the video.
Yeah, you were great.
Yeah.
Really, thanks,
So-
Brent. Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Rick, you're the star of this video.
I told you he would do that. He's like, yeah, we're on it. We'll do it. I'm going to go over here.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no.
All right, guys. I'll see you on the next one. We're out of here. Peace.